Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Live Magic Q&A tea party. I've got my water. It is 80 some degrees here in LA today. It is super duper hot. I don't know, you're up in Oregon, aren't you?
It's hot here too.
Oh my gosh, the whole West Coast is having a heat wave right now. So spring has definitely sprung even beyond. We're having a spring summer and I have my water, so we're all good. This is a Live Magic Q&A tea party. We meet here every Sunday on Zoom live, and you guys get to ask questions live about magic, law of attraction, divination. That's going to be our kind of focus today. And of course, all of the spiritual things that we have, we have guests from all different kinds of specialties. And today, I'm very, very happy to have Lara Vesta Veleda. Did I say your name right? Or
Lara
totally
Veleda Vesta.
Lara Veleda Vesta.
You can put it in any order too. That's the beauty of it.
Lara Vesta is here, and she is the author of the Wild Soul Runes, right? Did I say that one? I did say that right.
Yes, that's good.
Which is an amazing book that is coming out now.
Yes. It's actually being released on May 1st.
Oh my gosh.
I just got my author copies. I have to show it off. So
oh my gosh.
Very exciting.
So excited about this for personal reasons, because I have always had a connection to wanting to know the runes and have dabbled in it and study at times, but I really have never found, I feel like, that book that really I click with or really makes sense to me. So I'm very, very excited about your book. Anyway, we meet here every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Mountain time, 7 p.m. Central time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, except for the first Sunday. First Sunday, I have a paid workshop. They're called First Sunday Witchcraft Workshops. And those take place on the first Sunday, but every other Sunday we meet here and we get together and we talk about magic and all kinds of great things. And so it's a very, very exciting thing that I hope you will join. If you are watching this on YouTube and you'd like to join us, it's very easy to do. All you have to do is go to spellsquad.com and you sign up. And once you sign up, you get a link that is good every week, same link every week that you can join us. You'll also get a 33-page ebook called 7 Secrets to Supercharge Your Spell Work. And that's my free gift to you when you sign up on my email list. So if you do that, you'll be able to come into the room here. You'll be able to get that amazing free book and we'll be able to keep in touch. So I wanted to tell a couple little things that I have going on right now before we get started with our interview with Lara. I'm very, very excited about this. The first thing I have to announce is that my book, The Book of Candle Magic, which came out last October, this is my copy with my bookmarks in it. The Book of Candle Magic is up for an award. It's up for a Cover Visionary Award. And you only have until the end of April to vote. And the public can vote on this, which is so exciting. So if you would like to vote for my book, which I'd be so grateful if you would, all you have to do is go to thebookofcandlemagic.com, thebookofcandlemagic.com. It will lead you directly to the Cover Awards ballot, and then you can just go in and vote. I'm category number 37. So you have to have a few minutes for voting because you got to go through all those categories, but you can say none of the above if you just want to skip the other categories. It will take about, 5 to 10 minutes for you to do the whole thing if you go really quickly. But there's a lot of great authors and a lot of great creators that are up there. And so if you are someone who's interested in books and someone who's interested in metaphysical products, a lot of my friends have things that are up there. So it was very fun for me to go in and vote. And I hope that you will go in and take the time to vote. And if you do, send me a text message and let me know so I can personally thank you. I always love to say thank you to people who take that little bit of time. It's I really do appreciate the effort and the time that goes into it. So if you'd like for me to send you a little personal text message, go ahead and text me at 310-510-6184. And I will send a little thank you back to you to let you know that I saw it and I appreciate it. And I'll say something funny. I always do say a little funny thing when I do that. What else is going on? Oh, we've got new oils at the Parlor of Wonders. Brand new oils are out, and I'm very, very excited about that. We've got now Van that just dropped today. We've got Uncrossing oil. We've got Truth and Justice oil and Spirit Guide oil. Those are the ones that are dropping. The first 4 of 26 new oils that are coming. So every few days, I'm dropping a different oil. I'll be posting something tomorrow with a little sneak guess on Instagram where you can see that. I've been posting little things on Instagram about the oils that are coming out. But today, Van oil came out, which I always say Van oil is if I could only have one oil Van Van oil would be the oil. It's like eliminating anything that's blocking you, any negativity, and bringing in that good stuff, bringing in your good luck. It is a beautiful oil. Just wearing it or using it, you just feel so fresh, so clean, and so ready to take on the day. So it is my favorite oil, and I'm so excited to give you my version of Van Van, which just came out. And so that is available at parlorofwonders.com. So now I'm going to share with you Lara. And so I'm very, very excited. She's just come out with the Wild Soul Runes, and it's such an exciting time. Now, is this your very first book that you've come out with?
It's my first conventionally published book. I have 2 self-published books. So it is really exciting.
Oh my gosh. It's a different world, isn't it? It's great having a deadline.
Oh my gosh. And support, like meeting people and having that web weaving occur has just been such a gift. I love it. It feels like a true birth. Whereas with the other books, it was just me schlepping it around, but
yeah. What were your other 2 books that you did?
The Moon Divas Guidebook, Spirited Self-Care for Women in Transition, and that is an interactive, hand-drawn, handwritten guidebook. So that came out in 2012, and then I did the Moon Divas Oracle. I made a set of oracle cards, and that book is not handwritten, but it is handmade. I collaged that book together, and so those are my 2 earlier books.
Wow, that's amazing. Are those still available, by the way?
The Moon Divas Guidebook went out of print this year, and I'm searching for another publisher. My publisher stopped distributing, the self-publishing company I was using. So I'm looking to get that one back out there because that was definitely the most popular. And then the Oracle is still available. It's on my website. So.
Oh my gosh. And your website is? Tell everybody what your website is.
LaraVesta.co.
Oh, great. Okay. So now tell us about, I want to hear a little bit more about the books. I'm very excited about it. You know, Sam was the one that brought us together, and I love Sam. And she's the one that told me about it. And I was very, very intrigued. And so I was very excited to have you on the show. And I want to know a little bit about, well, first of all, what's the book about and how is it different than other rune books that are out there?
Well, this is a book based on my experience with the runes, my personal relationship with them. I see the runes as living beings. I see them as pieces of the web of weird. So they are actually vibrational beings, ancestral beings, and they're connected with everything. And what I found through a lot of challenge and transition is the runes really are these intensive wisdom keepers, and they hold so much around partnership and symbiosis with nature and with the masculine and feminine elements that live within us and with our ancestors. They carry the wisdom of our ancestors because they're from oral history. They're from pre-history, pre-written history. So the book is really a practice. It's a 33-week-long practice that it actually started as a research paper. I was in a PhD program. And so I was investigating the feminine origin of the runes. We always hear a lot about Odin with the runes. And yes, Odin was definitely involved, but he takes the runes from the well of the Norns, from this triple goddess entity, these keepers of ancient wisdom that existed prior to the gods. And we know that because that's in the Poetic Edda. And so there's this union between the sacrificial masculine and the well of origin, which is the feminine, that happens and brings the runes into consciousness. And so investigating that, I learned a lot about the feminine mystery traditions in the North. And of course, I'm not just speaking about women, I'm talking about the quality that lives in all of us. And then I started practicing on my own, really with inquiry with the runes, because I had been studying them, but I found that a lot of the things that were said about the runes were kind of just repeated over and over again, like, oh, this rune means this, and it comes from this rune poem, which is the 19th century translation that everybody uses, and we interpret it in this way. And that was a great place to start. But I felt a distance from them in that. And when I started sitting with them and actually asking them to show me what they had to say, and practicing with them using art, because runes are, they're visual and even auditory before they were writing. So working with them in these other forms, they started to really reveal things to me that I had never experienced before. And so I created a practice. I offered it at my school. I have a school called the Wild Soul School. We did the 33-week practice. It was a little broken up because I was very, very ill. I have a chronic illness, and I went through a real death transition a couple of years ago. And that was the basis for the book, that paper, initiating this practice, and then going through the whole practice, meeting in gnosis with other people, not looking to necessarily the source material for answers, but looking to the source material with more questions. And then I started translating the rune poems myself, and that just broke everything open for me.
Oh my gosh, you're like, I'm working on this book right now that's like so research intensive, and I'm having to learn another language, and I'm doing this stuff. So I feel you.
Yes.
I really feel you.
Yes.
You start going into these rabbit holes that are so deep, and then you start pulling out this information that is like, you just have to like go dig to get to the core of it. And you feel that it's almost like, I always say that, and it's probably your experience too. Did you ever see Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yes.
And where he's obsessed, Richard Dreyfuss is obsessed with the mountain with the top cut off.
Yes.
I'm like, that's how I feel when I'm working on this book right now. And I'm sure that that's how you feel too. Oh my gosh. So in this, this is so exciting. So for those of you who don't know or aren't familiar, I love this, what you were talking about, because that story of the Norns. So the sort of general story, and you can correct me if I've got it off here, is that the Norns, who are kind of equivalent to the Fates, are these women who were the keepers of the knowledge. And I always tell the story as like that they were the ones that had the magic of the runes. So if you understand the magic of the runes, they're not only a written language that you can document something, which is huge. When a culture goes from no written language to a written language, and you can start documenting things, it breaks everything open. It absolutely breaks everything open, because not only can you write down your grocery list, but you can document your history. You can send messages over distances and so on. But they were the keeper of these magical symbols that not only had the power of documenting something as a written language, but also each letter has a power of its own. And so the god Odin saw them and wanted to understand that. So you can imagine that idea of like a being who is on the other side who is on the other side of literacy, but also magical literacy, having this great desire for that mystical knowledge that these three women kept. So not quite sure how it happened, but he ended up having to hang himself by his foot, stabbed in his side, hovering between life and death, an initiation that's very akin to a shamanic initiation. And that initiation, at the end of 9 days, he was able to understand the runes. Did I get it right in a nutshell?
He reaches out and he grabs them. He takes them up. The word actually can mean to take, or it can mean to learn. So he either takes the runes, which is the traditional interpretation, or he learns them from the Well of the Norns. And I thought that was really interesting. I actually translated part of the Havamal for that reason, because I keep looking at these translations and I'm like, I don't know if that's what that means. And I'm not a translator. I want to be really clear about that. Like, my translations are extremely awkward. They're just word for word, me looking things up in a dictionary. It's not about syntax. It's not about grammar, but it is about having that understanding, because to take and to learn are two very different things. And so playing with the interpretation between the two, and then looking at the mystery traditions of more ancient cultures, like looking at the Aesir-Vanir War, the Aesir being the sky gods, potentially the Indo-Europeans that invaded an older European civilization that was very feminine, and that's based on the theories of Maria Gimbutas. Then you have encapsulated in the archaeological record the tale of the masculine potentially coming in and needing to work with this feminine in partnership and creating new culture, like you said, whether it's new culture that had a written record. We have runes. One of the things I talk about in the book is the origins of the runes. We don't know where they come from. We have an origin myth, and we have a lot of speculation, and we have, people who want them to be solely linguistic, and then we have people that want them to be solely magical. And I always like to hold the both. I think non-duality is one of the ways that we embrace spirituality. And so coming into relationship with, well, there are a lot of things, and they came from many places, and they're present in many cultures. This isn't just specific to one area of the world. We know these runes because of those rune poems, but there's so many more runes than are even in the poems. And when you start working with them and seeing them show up, you're like, oh, there's another one.
Everyone had their little local extra letters, I guess, probably, right?
Mm-hmm. Or symbolism on like pottery. I mean, if you go through like the early archaeology, old European archaeology is very, there's runes everywhere, and they'll say, oh, this is pre-runic writing, or this is the old European sacred script. They're runes. They're all of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's amazing. It is phenomenal. I love going in, I've been studying about ancient Ukrainian magic. And one of the things is there's a Kukuteni culture. Kukutenis over in Hungary and Czechoslovakia, I think. And Trypillian is over in Ukrainian. And they had their designs that got carried over into the artwork, the designs in like the embroidery that still exists today, the Easter eggs that are decorated, all of those designs carry over from over 5,000 years, 7,000 years we're looking at. And so these designs that are so magical and so cool and have such depth, and, they just have this meaning, and uncovering that and researching that is just a delight. So I can see that delight in that. By the way, I have Wunjo. I don't know if you say Wunjo, if I said it right. Wunjo and Degas.
Oh, you do.
My
wrist. Runes on you.
And I don't even know how to read the runes, but I love them so much. And I love them so much. I'm like, I want these symbols, like to carry these symbols with me, breakthrough and joy. What a beautiful thing to carry with you. So let's look at some questions that people have. So the book is coming out May 1st. People can pre-order the book, right?
Yes.
Wild Soul Runes. And you can pre-order at all the usual places, including Red Wheel Weiser puts it out. And so they'll have it on their site, and you can order directly from them, or you can order from, the usual places. Or, as I like to invite people to do, go to your local mom and pop bookstore and ask them to order this book for you, because that little extra effort of doing that has a great benefit for the authors, because if you ask for this book, it puts it on the radar for these bookstores, and they usually get another copy for the bookstore. So you've just doubled your impact. Plus, you're keeping those mom and pop businesses going during this time when, a lot of them are struggling. So your little local metaphysical store, little local bookstore, let's keep them supported. I'm sure Amazon is doing all right. They're definitely doing all right. So let's keep those little bookstores going by ordering, just making a phone call, sending an email to order that book through them. And when you do that, you don't get it instantly like you do on Amazon, but you're really keeping those mom and pop businesses going, which is so, so important. All right, let's see if I can open up the chat window. Oh, so you're going to do a little mini rune reading at the end before we get started with the questions. I forgot about this. So you're going to do a little mini rune reading at the end. What is your favorite emoji? That's what we use to get entries. You guys put the word or the emoji in the chat, and that's how we get here. We know that you want to be in the drawing to get a reading. So what's your favorite emoji?
I love the spider web because it reminds me of the web of weird. So,
Oh, I love that. So weird, but people understanding that word weird, the WYRD is it's like I would call it like kind of like the force, right? The magic is everywhere, and magic, we have access to it, and it's called the weird. So if people are wondering like, what's the weird? What's that? Is that do you think that's a good explanation of it?
Yeah, I would just only expand it to say I see it as the energy in everything. So I mean, and that relates to magic too, because everything, if you're an animist, I mean, everything is alive and everything has
Yes.
energy. And so that is the weird to me, everything, whether it's human made or natural or energetic, it all is weird. And so when I visualize it, I often see it as a fabric. You know, we have a long history in European folklore of spinners and weavers, and them being the fates, like you mentioned the fates before, the three sisters, the three Norns. I did a devotional practice last year for the Feast of the Three Sisters, because they are a pan-European institution, this idea that the fate is made by these entities. And so that's what I see the web of weird, is this magical fate that is creation. It's all creation, and absolutely it can be influenced 100%. And that is what the runes, I see them as fragments of the weird. So they're carrying the vibration of all of creation.
Mm.
But there are these little pieces that each contain like a little bit of information about the whole. And that's my relationship with them.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, I'm an animist too. You know, I call myself a spiritualist, but I see that living energy and everything, and pay attention to all, not even every living thing, rocks and things that aren't living also have that. Even static things, everything has a life and a vibration. Your house has a life and a vibration. Plastic object that you pick up has a life and a vibration. So in that animistic way, I'm right there with you, sister, on that. It's like absolutely cool. And I love I think that I'm very, very excited about this book, and I'm excited to carry it in my shop. By the way, when it comes out, I'll have it in my shop. I'm excited about that because I feel like having personality and life will be the thing that connects me to it. For me, it will work for me. I have this really good feeling about that. All right, so let's look at so some people would say everyone's putting the web or the word web. That's great. Perfect. I love that. All right, so let's see. I'm going to get to, people are saying, I've always wanted to know more about the runes and how to use them. I wish I could have a workshop on runes with Madame Pamita. I'm not the one to teach the runes, but you have a workshop. Do you have a workshop?
Do. Yeah, I have a class coming up actually in June, and that is, can I tell them, that's my special.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
is that you can get 50% off the course tuition. The course for continental US students, it includes a book. So the code is Soul Rune, all capital letters, all together. So, and that is at the Wild Soul School. That's wildsoulschool.teachable.com. And that is really an introduction to the practice that's in the book. So it's a great way if you're looking to reframe your rune practice, like you've come from a very traditionalist slant, but you want to build a more intimate personal relationship with them, or you're brand new to the runes and you've never encountered them before. We're going to spend 6 weeks together. 4 of those weeks we'll have live Gnosis groups. So we'll be gathering together to talk about what we're learning and discovering. And it's a way to give people, I know a 33-week-long practice is a big commitment. It's very nonlinear too, like working all the way through it that would be a marathon. This is, it can be much more organic than that. But the class is really to lay the foundation, to connect people in community and give them the tools. So when they walk away, they can continue their own work with the runes, building their independent relationships, and then also form their own Gnosis groups if they want to, because that is really like Gnosis in community is where it's at. The most magical things happen when you start to talk about what you're dreaming and what you're learning, and then the threads come together, and it's really spectacular.
It sounds like a way to live a magical life and to be aware of magic at all times, which is like how I like to live. That's what I like.
Exactly. No, that's it. And that is a very ancestral experience. That's when we talk about magic and we're looking at our ancestral traditions. This was not just for special people. Like this is for everyone. Everyone had access to magical information everyone can receive information from everywhere at all times. There were specialists, but you didn't go to the specialist right away. You worked with yourself and you worked with your family. And then if you couldn't find the answers, then you go to the specialist. And that would be for a specific thing often, or the community would come together in a healing or some sort of, dispossession work. It wasn't that we couldn't do it ourselves. It was that sometimes we needed more than just ourselves. And I think that that is a lovely way to live. And it has made all the difference to me. Like I said, I have a chronic disease and I had to go through some really tough stuff, and reframing how I live my life and living it in a rhythm that is in connection with spirit has made all the difference for
I love that.
survival.
I think I think, and I also think too, it's not like we would invite any, illness or invite anything like that, but having that experience, even unbidden, that you didn't ask for that experience, but you're having that experience, there's a gift in that experience too.
Mm-hmm. No, it's an initiation. That's Odin's initiation was a very physical initiation. Illness is an initiation. When you go through a serious illness or have a major surgery or have any sort of embodied trauma, it is an initiation, and there's always a gift, but there's always a death too. Something goes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. I think that's like, one of my practices has always been to be like, where is the gift in this really horrible thing or this really hard thing? And if you even the most horrific thing, there are ways to find gifts in it. I think that's helps you to navigate that experience instead of letting it completely. It can, those kinds of experiences can completely destroy a soul.
Yeah.
But finding that gift in it, is the way to for the soul to triumph, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when we look at the ancestral stories, that's what they're all about, right? They're all about overcoming something, being changed, going through a rite of passage process. You lose something dies, you don't get it back, but you get something else. And we're always trying, like right now I talk about the times that we're in a collective rite of passage, and we keep talking about going back, and there is no back. There is only forward. Something is gone, and we have to grieve that and acknowledge it, but also what are the gifts of this time? And then how do we become empowered by that? And that's post-traumatic growth. That is, the language of true self-worth. And our culture doesn't make a lot of space for difference or for death or for grief, but certainly the myths do. And I found them to be very useful in understanding a little bit more about initiations.
Well, Beverly brought up something that is very magical and something that isn't exactly a question, but I want to bring it up as a question. Beverly says, I made my own set of runes with clay. Mm-hmm. Have you ever made your own set, or what do you think have you ever thought about that or done it or?
Yes, I have. I've made actually quite a few sets. My first set, and I talk about this in the book because I talk about, I think clay is wonderful. You can make runes out of anything. Really, whatever you're called to is probably the substance you should use. They're telling you what they want to be made out of. I made my first set out of a hazel branch on a tree that I had spent a lot of time with, and the branch died just a few weeks after I encountered the runes and was thinking about making a set. Branch died, and then I cut it by hand with a dull pruner. My two children held either end of it. It was brutal. I don't recommend that. I threw my back out, and then I carved them. And that process, really putting yourself into the process, I feel like is definitely rewarded with any magical tool, of course. Infusing them with your energy over the course of many cycles and working with them deeply, that I mean, that all came to bear. And the set that I have here with me today is the set that I burned into birch. They're not, the traditional runes were made out of, this is based on Tacitus's Germania, where he talks about them throwing lots. He said that they were made out of a fruit or nut bearing tree. So that's kind of the traditional way, but I think the runes are much bigger and more adaptable than just a single line in a historical document. And clay sounds like a great medium for runes.
I mean, all of those things. I think that having that experience of making them yourself will give them, I think that would build your connection to your set. I mean, it would definitely build that connection to your set that you worked with. And I feel like it would also have that, as you were making it, you would think about the meaning or think about that rune as you were making it. Do you have like a recommendation for any kind of practice for making them, or anything like a prayer, or what would you recommend that people do as they're making their set, if they're making their set?
Well, there's a lot of, so I just had someone message me on Instagram a few weeks ago showing me that the set that they made based on the practice that's in the Wild Soul Runes book, they actually took the class that became the book, and they spent 33 weeks. They made a rune a week for 33 weeks. And so in that, they built, in the book, it talks about building an altar, singing, toning the runes with Galder, feeding them. They seem to like food and drink, like so many other entities, drawing them, working with them in art. And then this person harvested wood from various places that they'd lived, their childhood home, the land where they live now. They forged a knife on their own and carved the wood with this knife that they forged on their own, and then stained them with an oil that was collected from plants on their land. It was such a beautiful process. And you could see in the photo, you could see the vibration of the runes. They were amazing. So really it's about time, energy, infusion. And that's why having a long practice to work with them. Again, if you're building relationships with beings, you just treat them like people. Like if I want to hang out with you, I might, call you up every day or send you a text message and invite you to do things with me. And the runes love to come along on journeys. They love to, play outside. You can make them with natural objects. You notice them everywhere. All of those practices become infused in your set. And then when it's time to divine with them, which is, that tends to be the starting point for folks, but I find that was my ending point. I'm not done. It will never end for me because it's a relationship, but it took me years before I would use runes in divination because we were just getting to know each other and we were hanging out.
Yeah. Oh, oh gosh, it's so funny. We have so much in common because in my tarot teaching, and I wrote a book about tarot, and in that tarot teaching, I talk about the idea, well, I got my first deck when I was 10 years old. And that deck, I didn't, I looked at the little white book, and at 10 years old, I don't know what to do with it. I didn't even understand. There was nothing out there. It was the 70s. I was a kid. There was nothing out there. Right. And so for me, that was accessible to me. So I used to play with them like paper dolls, but I say that time that I spent just playing with them was not lost time or unvaluable or waste of time. In fact, it was quite the opposite, because as you sit with those images, for me with the tarot, you sit with the images and you develop personalities around these cards that infuses your relationship to that card. So playing with the runes, not as a divination tool, but playing with them as a point of meditation, something to contemplate, something to work with on a different level, would be so valuable. It's not wasted time. It's not like you got to get to that divination ability as fast as possible. Spending some time with those things is valuable time. it creates a deeper rooted, richer experience, right?
It
I
does.
think.
And then when
Yeah.
you come to divination, it's not like, oh, what does that mean? I now have to look it up. It's like, oh, this is an imprint, because the runes are because they are prehistoric. So they're pre-written language. I find them to be very visual. I'm also a visual artist. So the impressions that I get from them are often visual, or the dreams that I have about them, they're symbolic, and they speak in a language that's really old. So it's not like I can't just look the answer up in the book most of the time. It's a very embodied experience. It's very visual. Sometimes it's auditory. They speak in languages that are so ancient, but they're also a part of us. And so we all have it inside of us. We all have the ability to feel what they mean. And I think that if people were to approach them without any, preconceived notion, you'd be surprised what you come up with, because the impression is there. There's some sort of signature in them, and it's not wrong. There's no wrong way. That's what I found in Gnosis, is like, oh, it's just an expansion. Oh, there's another expansion. Oh, this person has another expansion. So I love that story about the tarot cards, though. I fully relate to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think that that's also true, when you develop a relationship with anything magical, you're developing it in a way that's your relationship. So like you might have a friend, and you may know that friend because you like to go dancing together. And so your experience of that friend is like, oh my gosh, she's really fun. We go dancing, we have a great time. She's an amazing dancer. She's so free. And I may have a different experience. Oh, I work with that person, and she's a really great worker, and she's super smart. It doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong. We both have different experiences that show how dimensional that person is. So when we learn from each other, and I tell you, oh my gosh, she's amazing at spreadsheets. I don't even get spreadsheets, but she's amazing at, and you're like, I never knew that about her. We just would go out dancing all the time. And I never knew, that delight that we have when we find out something new about somebody that we never knew about them, because someone else has a different experience with them. I always delight in that. And one of my great joys is in teaching tarot is how like a student will come up and go, oh, did you see this in there? Or I interpret it like this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I get this other dimension about this that I never even thought of before. So that's the joy, the real joy of teaching, is that you're learning when you teach.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes.
Well, we're going on a little bit of a different topic, because Tara has said, I connect so strongly with your story about going through your illness. Is that what you mean on your Instagram bio as a disability initiate?
Yes, absolutely. So the Disir are the ancestral grandmothers in the Northern European tradition, and they're behind me on the altar, my Disir, some of them, of course, we all have so many of them. And it felt empowering to me to take the prefix dis, which in Old Norse means goddess or sister or divine ancestor, and rather than against ability. So to claim my disability as disability, and coming out of that initiation, I lost a lot of things. I was a university professor. I was a PhD student. I had this trajectory that I was on, that I thought I was going to be on for life, and that disappeared. And so coming out the other side of many years of really severe disease, I felt like I had gone through a tremendous initiation. I took the name Veleda as that's always part of the initiatory journey, is you get a new status and a new name. And so my new status is as a disability initiate, and my new name is Lara Veleda Vesta.
I love that so much. Someone else, Helen says, I've learned over the years through illness. I have learned that over the years through illness, and COVID was a wake up call for me. Yeah. It's like we all are, I think collectively as a whole world, everyone is having, the same, to some degrees, greater and lesser degrees, having that kind of wake up call as to, a lot of wake up calls, I think, about
Yes.
surrounding this. There's the wake up call of for Americans, our culture. I think we're realizing so much is out of balance with our care of nature and how we take care of the world that we live in, and so much more. I mean, I think that, and then also that, we are a community and we are all connected. I think that's another thing that some people are resisting, especially I think in the States, there's a lot of people who are resisting that idea that we are all in this together, and they still cling to that independent, it's just me and what's in it for me. We have to think about the collective as well,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that is an ancestral value. One of the things that I think this year has highlighted is how much we're missing, how disconnected we are, and what's possible. There is so much possibility and potential in reconnecting to the earth and to each other, and to, reevaluating some of those deep ancestral values. I'm not talking about the values of patriarchy or capitalism or colonialism. I'm talking about ancient values, the value of community, the value of family, the value of tending to your place, the value of really being in relationship with everything that is. And that is the possibility of transition, is that you're taken out of the expected everyday and you're put into the liminal. And on reentry, which is where we're headed right now, you have choices to make, which is quite lovely. That is pretty incredible. And you can see, the veil has been lifted. You can see a lot of things that you couldn't see before.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's been a very eye-opening experience, and a challenging experience. I don't think anybody has escaped that idea, that the challenge of what we've gone through, but also, or going through still. I mean, we're still not done, but,
No.
but like, what do you do with that challenge? And how do you find the gift in it? What do you do with that? How do you find the gift in it? Janet wants to know, how would I make salt runes? Salt runes.
Salt runes. Janet, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, Janet's going to have to come back in and type a little bit more. I think of like those, like the big chunks of like Himalayan pink salt.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
working something like that, I would imagine, is probably maybe what she's thinking of. And Beverly came back with her comment about the making the runes in clay. For me, I was creating my own magic while setting an intention of clear communication. So beautiful. I love that. I love that. Victoria has a question that kind of incorporates both of our specialties. She says, what would runes bring to candle magic? Do you do candle magic at all?
I don't know. So you can answer that one for sure if you want to.
Well, I mean, I think about how, we can, we oftentimes say, you can inscribe your intention on a rune or on a candle. I'm stuck now. You can inscribe your intention, like you could write the words that you want, for example, or you could write, your name on a candle, or the names of your, the person that you're working on, if you're working on someone else, through sympathetic magic. But the runes have a very deep, rich vibration. They're interesting because, I think they have this is my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have like a real dimensionality to them. I think about that, like things like symbols have dimension, right? We think of a symbol like a star, and a star symbol could mean one thing to one person, another thing to another person, and we could all be right about that, right? So if I put a star as a symbol, it's a kind of a shorthand of whatever that symbol means to me. The star means to me. Star might mean to me like having hope, or the star might mean fame and being a star, or it might mean an awakening or an opening up. I mean, there's lots of things that you can think about connecting to star people, whatever you want to think about, and that's in that aspect. So I think about, if you were to use runes and inscribe a rune symbol or runes on a candle, just looking at them symbolically, you could actually spell out words. My friend James Devine. I don't know if he's here this week. He sometimes pops in. He writes fluently in the runes, but he writes them writing English words with runes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you can, I think about though, like you could inscribe something like Degas, like on my tattoo on something because you wanted to have breakthrough, you wanted to have opening up, but it's something more than writing the word breakthrough, right? Do you feel that way? That if you put a rune on something, it has more dimension or more power than writing the word in English, a word in English?
I absolutely think so. I mean, anytime you put a rune on anything, you're infusing that object or your body. You just showed your tattoos. I also have runes on my body. You're infusing that with the energy of the rune, and the rune contains, it is a fragment of the web of weird. So it is a symbol that means something, and it also contains everything in the weird. So that's really potent when you add that to any sort of magic. I've not added it to candles, but I certainly do a lot of rune magic. I make bind runes, putting runes together. I make rune webs. That's actually the form of divination that I created. I think everyone has their own runic divination inside of them. I invite everyone to find yours, but because I'm an artist, the webs put the runes together in a snapshot of the weird. And so that is really dynamic too, because you will then have the runes interacting on the object. So you have the rune itself containing weird, and then you have the interactions of the rune on the object, and then you have the object itself. So if it's a candle and it's melting down and the runes are dissipating with it, then what's happening there, right? What's happening with your spell and your magic? I've made little rune boats out of leaves and floated them in the river. I've buried a lot of runes. I've burned runes. I mean, there's really endless application. And I don't know that it's not that they contain more than words. It's just that it's different. It is a being, a symbol of a being. So in the same way that maybe a divinity or an ancestor would really infuse your work and empower it, the rune can do that too.
It just feels intuitively like it would have this, the best word I feel like is that dimension, that it has more, you're constantly learning more and more about it. And so you can start to come into understanding more and more of that dimension. Just like putting on like a tarot card is another version of that. Although I do think they have very different qualities. I think they have very different qualities, but the idea that there's something, you've got something that not only has the historical meaning and the historical understanding, but it's got a life of its own, and you're bringing that to your magic. So if you have that understanding, let's say you want to have a breakthrough around something and you put degas on your candle, you're asking for that breakthrough. And when we do candle magic, we're putting the light out there of what it is that we're bringing something out into the world, and that light travels everywhere forever, right? So you could bring that energy of that rune out into the world to make it happen, to connect to whatever it is that you're doing. That would be an amazing exploration to do, to work with. That may be the way that I work.
You found it. You found it. Right.
Well, let's do our drawing. So I'm going to count up. I'm going to ask you one more question to have you grab one more question, and then let's see. Oh, here's a good question that you can answer. Willow asks, are rune cards as effective as runes that are made with something, like a stone or wood or so forth? Are rune cards as effective? And I'll be counting the people that put web up, so you can pick a number. All right.
Sure. Yes. Oh, that's such a great question. I think it really depends on you. I think it depends on what you feel drawn to, what works best for you. Certainly the inscription of the rune itself is what empowers runes on wood or stone. Some people are really drawn to those medium. I've made rune cards and used them in a variety of ways. And I think that they're incredibly effective. It just really depends on what you're drawn to and what feels good to you.
It's so good. Yeah. And I think that sometimes the cards might be something handier if you're,
Yes.
if you can't for some reason, they might be something that you can throw in your purse or pocket and. So we have 26 people that entered the drawing. So just why don't you pick a number between 1 and 26?
12.
Okay, so 12. All right, so let's go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Lady Raven. Lady Raven, you are the winner. Okay, so let me get her up here. Let me close that out. And then you guys, at the end of this, you'll give the code again for the discount for the class, how they can get in the class. And I'm going to give you a word to text me on the number so that we will have a sale. Let's see, what should I put on? I haven't even really thought about it today. I'll tell you what it is I'll think of it while you're doing the reading. How's that? All right, let's set Lady Raven on here. All right, let's see. Let me get those. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm really handicapped not having my computer the way I like it. All right. Okay, so Lady Raven, I'm asking you to unmute. Can you hear us? Oh, there you are.
I can hear you.
What would you like to ask her your question for the reading?
Oh, no, I hadn't even thought about it.
Well, is there a topic that you'd like to focus on? Like it could be like career, it doesn't have to be a specific question. It could be like career, relationship, health, money, family, whatever. What's important to you right now?
Health.
Okay, so let's take a look at health with the runes and see what wisdom comes through.
Okay, so Lady Raven, I'm going to have you take some deep breaths with me. Just center in. We'll give offerings. I'm asking my ancestors to be here. You're welcome to invite in your helping, compassionate ancestors too. I'm just giving thanks to the runes for guidance. All right, I'm putting them on white, which is the traditional backdrop. I can't show you, but I will lift them up and I'll show them to you. So the way that I read is I drew 3 runes. That's what came out. It's always what comes. And then it's their relationship together that matters too. And I'm going to invite you to ask these runes after we conclude or over the course of the next week. Consider asking them what more they want to show you. So this is Stan. That is the first rune. And this is one of the Anglo-Northumbrian runes. I often see it as, the word means stone. So sometimes it's an impediment, but if you notice, it's actually made of 2 Perto runes together. And I love to feel into Stan as the standing stone that opens. So it's these 2 runes together that are a game of chance, that are the pouch of the Norns, that are the sacred well. And when you press in a little bit to that impediment, to that thing that you're feeling as an obstacle, see if a portal opens and emerges there. That is what Stan has been to me. It may have other things to show to you. The second rune is Lagus. Lagus is one of my favorite runes. It's the rune that I work with all the time because it is very much a feminine rune and it is a rune of water. It's really interesting. There's not a lot of water runes. You would think there would be more given that the Northern Europe had a lot of water all around it, everywhere. But Lagus is very much about the fluidity of life, the flow, and being able to be like, when I work with Lagus, I think of the droplets of the rain moving into rivulets, moving into streams, moving into rivers, moving into the ocean. And what happens when we try and stand in the way of that flow, right, is the water always finds a way. Water always finds a way to return to that greater source so that it can then evaporate. You've got this beautiful cycle moving. And for me, Lagus often, and you'll hear me saying for me because Your interpretation may be different, and Lagus may have other things to show you. But for me, it often means to surrender to the flow and allow things to carry me through. The last rune is Yera, and I love Yera. Yera is a rune of change, and it's a rune of inevitable change. It's a rune of cyclic change. It's a rune of moving through the wheel of the year and finding yourself once again in spring and finding yourself once again in summer. It is the rune of the sacred harvest. It's asking what was planted, what has grown, what will be reaped, and then what will be sown again. And working in cycle with Yera can allow for, again, especially if you're looking down the path of pressing into an obstacle, opening to the flow, and then allowing for the cycle to move through Yera, can bring a lot of lessons around timing and being in the rhythm, being in the cycle, allowing for the cycle to do its natural work. So all of these, I mean, with a reading, any sort of reading, even a small one, you can put the runes together, you can draw them next to each other, and you can see what they have to say to each other and to you as you move through the weeks ahead. I usually, when I offer a reading, it's for generally a lunar cycle, and then you might want to check in again and see what else comes.
Thank you so much, Laura.
You're so welcome.
I know the runes very, very well. They're one of my favorite.
Good. Yay. Okay, so you know then. So
Yes.
then, yes, you know.
And
So
I
you'll
also
be-
live with multiple chronic illnesses.
Then you're a kindred of mine.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, this was lovely. Thank you so much, Lady Raven, for doing
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Oh,
you.
so nice. And so again, the class, I'm going to see if I can join that class. I'm so intrigued with that class. And my book deadline is May. And so after May, I'm free to do things again. And so it kind of is working out great. So, so tell everybody again what the, where they can sign up for the class.
wildsoulschool.teachable.com is called Wild Soul Runes. That is the title of the class. It's the same title as the book. The code is Soul Rune, all capital letters, all one word, and that will give you 50% off the tuition. I think I saw someone pop up the tuition.
The chat.
Yeah, in the chat, it was $180. So it's $90 for a 6-week class, and that includes a book.
That is so great. That is
If you're in the
phenomenal deal. That's a phenomenal deal. If you're out of the US, they can probably, well, they can get the book, you know, and themselves and do that. They can still be in the class, but they won't.
And I'll have excerpts for people, for international students who are not able to purchase the book right now. I'll have excerpts for you to read.
No, it's so great. I'm going to try and go if it's working with my schedule. If I'm able to do it, I'm going to try and be there too. So that would be great. We could all be in a class together.
Fun.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. And for you guys, I decided while you were doing the reading, I said, oh, I want to you know what I haven't put on sale? I don't think I've ever put them on sale, is books. So I'm going to do a special flash sale for today and tomorrow, where you can get 20% off all the books in the shop. And if you want that code, you need to text me the word rune or runes to my text number, which is 310-510-6184. Somebody will write that in the chat. So one of you guys will be on top of that and write that in the chat. If you text me the word rune or runes, I will send you I'll send you the code so that you can get the 20% off the book. So that isn't the code. Rune or runes isn't the code. You have to text me that word so that I can send you the code. And then that flash sale will be today and tomorrow. All books will be 20% off. And your code again, someone just said, what's the code again?
Soul Rune, all capital
Soul Rune.
letters, all one word. Yes.
SOULRUNE.
Yes.
And yeah. So, well, thank you. This has been such a delightful time. And I'm so excited. I'm going to finally learn the runes or get really going with them like I've been wanting to. I did a spell 2 years ago that I was like, I'm going to finally get my rune thing. And it's been 2 years that I've been waiting, but maybe now is the time. It's like, I'm going to master them. So, so if you want 20% off books, send me a text, send the word runes to 310-510-6184. If you want to get the 50% off the class, which is such a great deal, $90 for a class. That's like amazing. For a 6-week course, that's amazing. And that you can get by going, by doing Soul Rune, sending the code Soul Rune when you go onto Teachable, Wild Soul Runes at teachable.com, right?
Yes.
So yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lara, for being here.
This
Thank you.
is such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for putting up with all my technological nightmares that are happening, but it all worked out. Hopefully the recording came out. We never know with these things, but thank you again for taking the time out of your day to spend with us. And thank you guys for being here in the clubhouse. We have such a great time here. Next week, I don't even know. See, I'm so unprepared because I was dealing with all that technology stuff. Next week, my guest is going to be, let's have a drum roll. Guess it's going to be, it's Jacob Pieri of Oset Gypsy. He's going to be back. He's got a new deck out, and I think that's what he has, our new book or new deck coming out, and we're going to be talking about that. He's been on before. We'd love to have you back again sometime, Lara. So we'll get in touch, and sometime maybe next year, and we'll have you back again. It was so great.
I'd love that. Thank you so much. Thank you,
and congratulations on the book. It'll be so exciting to be able to sell that in this shop, and congratulations. It's a big deal coming out with your book, and it's a big celebrate. Make sure that you celebrate.
I will.
All right, everyone. Yes, text me runes if you want the discount code, and I'll send you that discount code. If you forget the discount, you can say, what's the discount? Anything you text me is going to get it for you. So it's fine. All right, guys, have a great week. We'll see you next week when we have James Jacob Pieri on, and he's going to be a lot of fun. He always is a great time. So have a great week, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.